call to order. Thank you.
Just a friendly.
Nope, I appreciate it.
Before we start, we appreciate your patience. Obviously, this is the first meeting of the lecture hall. It's kind of what we're calling our soft opening. The dedication will be next month. So we're going to do the best we can to get through the meeting. There's a ton of technology here, and Chris is pretty versed in it and showing everybody the ropes and everybody, all the people for the presentations and the trial today. So we think we're all set. But who knows? Anything can happen. So be patient. Be a little bit patient.
Sorry, kids texting.
Ready? Yeah. On you whenever
You ready? Okay. It is 6:02. I'll call the Monday, February 5th Board of Education meeting to order. If everyone will please rise. Pledge allegiance. It's in the back corner there. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jonathan squeezed by over here. Thank you. Dropped my cool. Welcome to the unofficial Pamela Belmore Gardner Lecture Hall. Official opening is next month, but I think we're lucky that we got to have a meeting in here tonight. At this time, I'd like to ask if anyone from the public would like to address the board.
Excuse me one second, Chris, did we have a mic or do we don't think we need?
I don't think we need them the way the system is. Yeah.
Just fine.
Just speak.
And Chris knows I'm loud. Me too, it works out perfect. Just please state your name and address before you speak.
My name is Denise Ford of 112 Church Street here in West Haven. I came this evening. First, I'd like to thank, I see many of our teachers and educators in here that I love and give so much time to our kids and families, and I can't thank all of the educators here enough, and I do appreciate the Board of Ed, which is why I'm bringing this to your attention. Back September, it was in September 5th, they had the primary elections, and they had certain schools open while the children were in attendance. We were told that it was just a special election, so it wasn't going to happen and all of the nonsense. And it made our children unsecure. It made our staff unsecure. It made the parking lot a nightmare. It was at best supervised. I won't even call it. We were told that there would be security guards there. There was one security guard, but there's only 2 security guards at the whole school. So you're then pulling a security guard to stand there to try to make sure that the people can't go past the gymnasium to get to all of the other children. And I mean, although you still go past the music room and you're shutting down the gymnasium on the children for the whole day while they attend school. But it also caused a traffic nightmare and it caused all kinds of problems then. I went to the people who were standing with their signs in the parking lot and said, this is not okay, this is not safe, I'm not comfortable with this. So did several other parents that were there. They said they would look into it and say something. I mentioned it to 1 or 2 other people, but they said, this is a special election, this doesn't happen. So January 23rd, when there was a special election, and 2 of our schools, 765 of our students, not to mention around 800 employees, were again put at risk because that's just that district. And those kids don't deserve to be as safe as everyone else, because if I go to the school, I have to go to the office and sign in and show my ID and have someone either come and escort me into the building or have my child come to me. But anyone can come in that day with 1 security guard on their phone and no police presence other than in the parking lot during 1 or 2 times during the day, because it's 1 SRO that has to do all of the elementary schools. We live in an age where we know what happens in schools today with one mentally ill person with an ill intent. It didn't even have to be an ill intent towards our children. It could have been an ill intent towards one of the candidates that were out there with their signs. But my child's the one in that school, and a lot of other people's children, and not to mention the teachers are somebody's children, and someone's wife, and someone's mother or father. It is not fair. It is not secure. It is not okay. Not to mention the traffic again created, and this time caused a car accident with a school bus trying to pick up our children. If that had happened in the morning, we would have had 40, 50 kids on that bus, and the police would have had to take 40, 50 reports, because each child needs their own report. Because if your parent wants to be able to look at that one report, that one child has to be on it because they're juvenile, tying up the police and the bus and everything else for the whole day. Not to mention if a child got hurt in that. But we got lucky, and it was an empty school bus just trying to pick up who got in an accident with the horrible traffic, because the school was in session while people were trying to vote in our school. I understand it is extremely hard. I am not a hard-headed woman. There needs to be places in the district for people to go to that are reasonable. Schools seem great until something happens. It's already been first an inconvenience, now caused an accident. What needs to happen next? Okay? So at the very least, security by the way of an armed police officer, whether state or local, don't care. Connecticut State Police, the state is saying we need to have these elections in the schools while they're open, let them send us troopers. One in the parking lot so that they can direct traffic for the buses, and one in the school at the door, show your ID, escorted into the gym. At the least, our children, our staff deserve it, and they're owed it. And that's all I have to say.
Denise, I'm sorry, did you say you were a parent or an employee at the school? Or
Parent.
both? Oh, parent?
Well, I was a lunch aide last year for a
And,
while.
and did you see this at multiple schools, or did you have a specific school that was?
It happened at McCurl twice, but I also went and I personally voted in the special election at Savin Rock, which it was also the same.
Okay.
School was in session, people were let into the gym.
I just want to make sure I had all the info.
Yeah. So it was the same setup. So, I mean, there are 765 registered children at those two schools. Why did those 765 children and about 100 staff members between the two need to put in that kind of risk? It's not okay. It's not acceptable. And if something does happen, who's responsible? And that's really all I wanted to say. And I do appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you too. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the board? For a second time, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board? For a third and final time, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board? Seeing none, public portion is closed at 6:09. Next on our agenda is student representatives.
We just do it from here?
Yes, absolutely. If you're comfortable there, or you can come up here, whichever you'd like.
Yeah, where's Chris? Explain that, you're picked up.
How, Chris? So the way we're streaming right now, this has a room mic. It picks up everyone in here. It's crystal clear on Zoom, on the call. So just speak pretty good, but you don't need to yell.
All right.
It picks up.
Would we allowed to go together? If it's possible?
Whatever you'd like.
Whatever you guys like.
You can sit in the corner, I guess. My name is Verhan Osman. I'm one of the student representatives.
And my name is Khadija Moore. I'm also one of the student representatives.
So we just wanted to formally greet everyone together. And to begin, we'd like to start off what's happening at West Haven High School. Or not begin, but 20 National Honor Society students read to the kids at Savin Rock. Detective Sergeant Mauricio, Sergeant Detective, I'm so sorry guys.
Okay, take a deep breath.
Visual of the Darien Police Department spoke to students in the West Haven High School criminal justice cohort on December 30th. Yale's public safety facility dog, Heidi, visited West Haven High School on December 30th as well. And Andrew McLarty and Taylor Alfano were named SEC Winter Scholar Athletes at West Haven High School.
The West Haven High School Science Club is back after being temporarily disbanded because of COVID. Meetings are every other Tuesdays. The new West Haven High School DECA Club hosted a winter semi-formal on February 2nd, and tickets were sold for $35 each. There was about 30 to 40 people in attendance. The tests for the seals of biliteracy are going to happen on March 4th, and seniors are now.
Thank you. Excellent job. Welcome aboard. Ladies, do you have anything to add? You're good? All right. At this time, I will turn it over to the superintendent for administration status of schools.
Actually, the nice thing I get to do tonight, Kelly, is turn over to, we have 3 presentations tonight. Before we begin them, though, I do want to welcome and congratulate, it was quite an honor. West Haven had 3 schools of distinction, based on our last test results. That's quite an accomplishment. And I want to congratulate all of you, those of you here from Haley, McCrill, and Forest Elementary. Teaching staff, all of the assistants that help work with kids, the coordinators who do a great job implementing and monitoring the curriculum. And again, three schools to be recognized. That's a pretty good accomplishment. I'm really very proud of all of the work that you guys do. So with that being said, and I'll turn it over to Judy because she kind of is spearheading the presentations and she'll be a little more specific than I.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Tonight I'm going to go over with my team, and they'll introduce themselves as they do their part, our accountability report, which comes out every year. As we know, there's a state accountability report.
Hold on, Judy. Did you guys want to sit out there and
Are
watch?
we
or
gonna
can
sit
you-
up?
Want to
We
move
can't
and
see
sit
anything.
over
Yeah,
here?
if you can, if
We
you
can
guys want
turn
to.
this screen around.
Go. Hey.
We got it all. We got all the technical.
How are you? Nice to see you, Mrs. Tresvant.
You can see it, right? You can feel free to sit out there.
So anyways, it comes out every year, and tonight we're going to discuss it in detail, mostly 2 of the indicators, but I'm briefly going to go over the other ones. As we know, a student is worth more than a score, a school is more than a score, and a district is more than a score. And that's why our Connecticut Next Generation Accountability System, with its 12 indicators, looks at the whole child and the whole school. It creates a picture of how our students are getting ready for the next phase in their life, whether it might be going on to college, a 2-year school, or a career. So the indicators break down, there's 12 indicators. Each grade level has a different amount of indicators, as you'll see on the reports. Each individual school gets their own individual report. The model focuses more on academic growth than it does on rather than achievement. So with that, we're gonna go in more detail for indicators 1 and 2. The coordinators are going to go over that after, but I'm just going to briefly tell you a little bit about the other ones. So you're going to look and say, oh, 2, there's no 3. Well, 3 is participation. It's not on there. 98% participation rate for our state assessments. 4 is chronic absenteeism. We have 2 indicators there. Chronic absenteeism is when you look at the kids that are in for 180 days. If they miss 18 days or more, they're chronically absent. Of course, if they come into school later into the year, they figure in the percentage that way too. Our students are slowly improving. We know that with the pandemic, it changed the mindset. It's been a little hard getting some of our kids in school from all the ways into kindergarten, believe it or not, is a difficult age when they start, because I know mom keeps them home for any slight thing, but we have improved. We went from 27 to 29 for our WAL students, and then from 30 to 34.2 for our high needs students, which is good improvement. Some of the things that we've done to improve our attendance is our social workers are working hard. I know our administrators are working really hard to get the kids in. We have attendance committees in each of the building. Our outreach workers go out to the families and try to encourage them to come in. Some of the families have different stories, and we try to help them out. Maybe a bus situation, maybe a babysitting situation. but we really work hard to get our kids in, and we can see the improvements coming in. Indicator 4, which I said I just went over. Indicator 5 is the CCR. When you have the report in front of you, I'm sorry, I meant to tell you that. Is preparation for the CCR, college and career readiness. And that is, first of all, what it is our students taking courses in the 11th and 12th grade. They're prepared so that they can take and get credit for college. We have many courses and we're still adding more. We have ECE Italian, journalism, physics, STEM, the EMT program, the CNA program, culinary, which is we're working with Gateway, graphics project Lead the Way, biomedical. I didn't leave it out, Raph. Yeah, and marketing. And we're working on dual enrollment courses, as Dana had presented, I think, in the fall with Southern. And of course, we not only want to know that they can take these courses, but we have to assess them. And that's the next indicator. So indicator 6, preparation for career and college and career readiness. And we do assess them. It's important to evaluate their performance. And we were, I think it was 24% on that. Indicator 7, on track to high school graduation. What we do is we look at our 9th graders when they're entering school. We want them to be able to have a successful freshman year. So we're looking at them earning at least 6 credits during that first year. This gives us evidence if they're going to fulfill and do the whole 4 years of high school. We've improved on that. We're higher than the state, as a matter of fact, on that one. The state is 82.4. We went from 86.2 to 87.4% this year. The next one, 4-year graduation, fall students cohort. I know I did something in the fall about that. That's our students graduating within the 4-year time. That's first time 9th graders who graduate with a diploma in 4 years or less. And we went from 80% to 84% this year. And I know Ms. Paredes is really working hard on this. That's your baby.
That's the district rate though, not the high school rate.
No, I
The
know,
rate
I
is
know,
higher.
I know.
Have to point that out. You know I do.
And then indicator, okay, we're on to 7, 8, 9, 6-year graduation rate. Okay, our high needs students, that includes our transitional students and our EL students as well. Special ed high needs. And we've improved on that one. Our English language learners are included in that one too. Indicator 10, post-entrance graduating class within the first year. What we look at is our children that they graduated high school, if they entered a college program, a 2-year program, within that year afterwards, that's counted as a positive towards us. And we went up from that one from 53.2% to 54.4%.
Does that include technical schools?
Yes, for 2-year.
Okay, thank you.
Physical fitness is really an important one because we need those kids to get out and move around. And I know it's a hard thing. The test itself, it's called the PACER test, which is basically it's just the kids running. Sit up and reach, that's flexibility, push-ups, upper body, and sit-ups. And we've really worked hard this year, and it's not having the kids sitting there and doing 20 sit-ups. It's a combination of many things that the physical education teachers are doing to make sure these kids are ready to take the assessment, and they've done a great job on that. We went up from 36.6% to 46.2%. And the last indicator, 12, is our arts access. And that is looking at students in grades 9 through 12 who participate in at least one art activity during the year. This includes dance, theater, music, visual arts, drawing, sculpture, ceramics, art history. So these are the things that make us look like a well-rounded district, as you can see. So right now, we're going to go on and we're going to talk about our accomplishments. And that's our 3 schools of distinction. And I'd like to start out with first one, Forest School. Forest School had high growth in math, for all students, high growth in ELA and math for high needs students. So I'm going to ask at this time, Mr. Hunt, you are the principal of Forest School, if you could stand up, and all my friends from Forest, and he's going to introduce you.
So we brought a nice cross-section of what represents the service. We have Jason Heffernan, our math coach. Next to Jason is Nicole Forsythe. She is a math aide, and Linda Pisani, one of our first grade teachers. We're excited because, you know, for a Title I school to, you know, be a school of distinction, not only takes a lot of work and a lot of effort and perseverance and commitment by the staff, but most of you have been around long enough to hear what I've said in the past. And the way they're looking at schools now really puts our learners, the learners that we have in our building every single day on the map. They're being recognized for learning and not so much recognized as being proficient, you know, some short years ago. And our kids, while, you know, achievement is always in at the end of the tunnel and always in sight, they are really proud of the gains that they make. And the teachers are really proud from where they take them in August or September to where they land in June. So I thank everybody very much. I thank the staff for the hard work. Congratulations to our other schools of distinction as well, because the effort and the commitment and the passion of teaching and learning is really what it's all about for our kids.
Excellent.
Okay, our next school, Haley, they had high growth in math for all students, high growth for their high needs students in both ELA and math. And that is Mrs. Palermo. Mrs. Palermo, I'll turn it over to you for a minute. Stand up.
So I have here tonight paraprofessional Andrea Lewis. I don't teach there. Just as important, we brought a Haley parent and PTA member. Third grade teacher Kathy Johnson, third grade teacher Alyssa Osborne, and paraprofessional Marilyn McCarthy. So thank you all for coming out tonight. I have nothing different to say than what Tom shared with you already. We haven't been here in a couple of years, so we are super excited to be here. Thank you for inviting us and recognizing us and for our breakfast as well. But we certainly plan on being here next year. So you'll see us again next year. And a Haley graduate myself. My dad again.
Yeah.
A few other of our staff members as well. So talk about full circle.
Okay, and McCrell, high growth, high performance for all students in ELA and math, high growth for their high needs students in ELA and math. And I'd like to also say they are called what we call a Category 1 school. So congratulations, McCrell, Mrs. Bryant.
Social worker, Kim Zavalowski, our reading consultant, Jen Rosenberg, our math facilitator, and Faye Marzanato, our school psychologist. Congratulations to my staff and students for working here.
And I want to tell you that the best part of my days are going into the schools and watching all the staff working hard with the kids. I just love it. And every single building is special. And we're very lucky to have the teachers that we have and the staff and the administrators I love working with. Thank you.
We're super proud of you guys, and I'd probably say at least every other board meeting that
West Haven by far has the most dedicated teachers in all of the land, and we appreciate you each and every single day. All the teachers and paras and school staff members, you guys do an amazing, incredible, really, really hard job, and we appreciate you. We're super proud that we have 3 schools of distinction.
Of course, this is why we're here. We had to get that in there.
Okay, so this is my slide. I'm Colette Bennett. I'm the English Language Arts, Social Studies, and Library Media Coordinator for the district, K-12. And what you see in front of you is the slide about achievement, their scores. In ELA, the state is on the left, West Haven Public Schools combined grades are on the right. The information on this slide speaks to the English language arts scores achieved by all students over time from 2016 to 2023. The scores shown are the combined total for grades 3 through 11 using the standardized test for the state of Connecticut, the Smarter Balance Assessment, and the SAT. They're both standardized required by the state. You can see that there was no test in 2019, 2020 due to COVID. You can also see how the West Haven scores on the right mirror the trend of the state of Connecticut scores. Please also note that our achievement score in 2023 at 60.1 was higher than the state average of 54.1. Next slide.
Significantly higher, it looks.
Significantly higher, thank you.
But I think what's important with that is if you looked at our reference group, when you compare us to other schools, we should be performing as high as we are. So, given where we fall as a DIRT district reference group, that's pretty darn good. That's a really good accomplishment.
The second slide is the English language arts scores for all students, growth comparison, state versus the West Haven Public Schools. And this slide speaks to the growth of all students in grades 3 through 8, again, using the Smarter Balance Assessment. So this is grades 3 through 8 where they track growth. They don't track growth with the SAT. Again, you can see how the growth of all students in West Haven on the right mirror the trend of the growth of all students in the state of Connecticut. Please also note that our growth score in 2023 at 57.1 was again higher than the state average of growth, 54.1.
I will continue with the math. My name is Robin Ferreira. I'm the math coordinator of the district, K-12. And this is our data from our last report card last year. The first thing that we always like to do is look at our trend data, which is over to the right, our West Haven Public School, to make sure that our trends are looking pretty similar to the state of Connecticut. Our trend data prior to COVID is pretty consistent, going up a little bit each year and taking a dip after the COVID year. And last year, we had a nice little bump of recovery period at 56%. If we look at our comparison data to the state, we would like to see that the trend looks similar, in which it does. We have a consistent through COVID. After COVID, it dips, and there's a small recovery. It is nice to know, if you want to take away something from this slide, that the dip after COVID, we were below average a little bit more than last year. Last year, we took a nice little recovery at 3.7% difference. This is math growth again, grades 3 through 8. And then this measures the Smarter Balance growth. And over to the right, our trend data looks pretty consistent across the years with no dip after COVID. And this comparison data with the state looks pretty similar. What I would take away from this slide is the year after COVID, it looks like we were a little less in percentages than the state. However, last year, we not only recovered that, we improved another 1.5%.
We're moving to science. We're all introducing ourselves for our new board members, so I just want to let you know, because obviously our teachers know us. I'm Rafaela Frank. I oversee the EL bilingual or language, science, and STEM departments for K-12. I'm going to start with the science data. Our students get tested in science in grade 5, 8, and 11, and we're in ELA and math. We have the proficiency level and the growth level. In science, they're pretty much looking just at proficiency level. They don't track kids from one year to the next, but just 5, 8, and 11. So if we're looking at this data, we see that we're looking at all students. We're a little bit below state average at 59.6%. The state is at 61. When we're looking at our special population, which is our EL, our special ed, and our free and reduced lunch, students, we are well above the special population with the state average. And also, we definitely had an increase in science scores this year, especially the high school. The proficiency level at the high school went up by 10%. Now, as we take this, you can go to the next slide.
Can I just,
Sorry.
I don't like to interrupt, but I think
Yeah,
it's
go ahead.
important because I got the latest numbers today.
Yeah.
And talking with Rafaela, we have about 1,350 EL students. We have 6,000 total population, about 200 refugees. So those, again, those numbers are, when you look at our population, they're pretty good, pretty impressive, especially with the EL population.
So if I'm looking at science score in comparison to our DERG is our district reference group. How do we compare with districts in our DERG? So when I look at the DERG, I look at districts that are similar to ours. So I'm thinking of Danbury, Meriden, Norwalk, Stanford. No matter what, we're number one in our DERG, but we're well above the other districts, both for all students with science scores and special population. So we're number one in the DERG regarding science scores.
Not that Rafaela is competitive. Right?
I'm Karen LaFoe, I'm the Assistant Director of Pupil Services. I'm going to start our conversation on high needs population. So the table you're seeing in front of you is the last 4 years of our 3 subgroups that create our high needs student population. So it's students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, students with disabilities, and English learners. So currently, we have 3,180 students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. We have 1,331 students who receive special education services and 1,348 students who receive EL services. As you can see in this chart, over the last 4 years, West Haven's population has sort of moved with the trends of the state, especially in special education, where our populations are increasing, as well as with our EL population that seems to be bursting at the seams lately. Together though, special populations, EL and special education work very close to one another to make sure all of our students are getting all their needs met.
So I'm Stefania Larry, I'm the Director of Pupil Services. Both Neil and Karen touched upon our what makes up the high needs subgroup. I wanted to highlight just a bit our special education subgroup. As you know, Rafaela's numbers in EL have skyrocketed, and we're seeing a significant increase as well in special education. Last year, at the very end of the year, we ended with, and I'm sorry, my backstory too. We ended with 1,223 students with IEPs in district. This year at the halfway mark, and I know you've all seen our little cutie kindergartners on Instagram on the 100th day, or right around that half year mark. We are at 1,333. So that is 110 more students with IEPs than we had last year. And we're only halfway through the year. And I project that that will continue to increase with our referrals that typically begin to start processing in the springtime. And I'm sure we'll have more move-ins. So just like EL is increasing significantly, we are as well. I know you've heard in previous board meetings, while our overall census across the district is decreasing, our needs are increasing. But with that being said, looking at our proficiency levels, even though our numbers continue to increase and we have more students requiring specialized instruction, our students, our EL students, our high needs students, and our students with disabilities are outperforming their peers across the state. And that's awesome. If you look at the left-hand side in comparison to the right-hand side, you'll notice that in all 3 areas, in ELA, in science, and math, our students, our West Haven kiddos are outperforming their peers across the state. And that really has contributed, and I can't say this enough, to our teachers, our support staff, our tutors, and our paraprofessionals. I'm glad we have a few paraprofessionals here tonight that are working tirelessly every day, and they're focusing on the whole child. So not only are they meeting their academic needs, but we're focusing on their their social emotional needs, And unfortunately, at times, their basic needs as well. And it's just my opinion, maybe because I'm the director of special education, but the work that our EL teachers and our special education's teachers do on a daily basis is nothing short of incredible. They have to provide that specialized instruction at the student's grade level, which typically they're significantly below grade level, while simultaneously working on grade level content. So our teachers are really experts, not only in the grade level that they're assigned to, but all of the grade levels leading up to that. So I think our teachers are incredible. I think our students are doing a fantastic job. And like AJ said, we will continue to grow, and you'll see us, our projection continuing to grow next year as well. So I thank you for your support with our population.
Steph, are these results available to the general public? Like, do other district parents know how well that our students are doing compared to other districts?
That's a good question. I know that it's for some that are not familiar with the data, especially that report card, it is hard to, as a parent, I'm sure, to, interpret that data. But through our communication efforts and what we put on social media, I hope to continue pointing that out to our families.
Because if I was a parent looking, I would say, well, we need to move because I want my kids to go here where they're doing so well.
The
So
only thing I would tell you is without the explanation, it's a little bit hard to dissect. So I think we got to simplify it.
Yeah, the state has Inside Public, you can go on and look at every district and how they're performing. You can do the comparison with other districts, but you have to be really techy and knowledgeable to play around with it. But that's where
I just think it makes it more attractive to anybody that's looking for
Talk to Mike O'Brien and see if we can get maybe even a link or something and get something up.
And just one last thing that I wanted to highlight.
we wish for. I was pointing out that more the success is probably contributing to our busyness.
Yeah, and also, and Raf has the same experience with our students. When they do achieve proficiency, chances are they're going to exit out of EL and exit out of our services because they no longer require specialized instruction, and that's not reflected in the data.
That's a great point.
I wish it was, because we do have students that, exit from services and graduate. But we're still very proud of the population that's reflected here.
Great job, thank you.
Hi, I'm Maria Burton. I work for People Services. So this slide is showing you the growth of the high needs students in ELA and math. And as before, the state of Connecticut scores are on the left and West Haven is on the right. And in regards to growth, our high needs populations continue to outperform the state averages.
Again, we're moving on to the report card. So we're now to 2E and 2Fs. We're almost done with the academic portion of the report card. Even EL student get assessed by the state. Any English learner or multilingual learner that enters West Haven school system from kindergarten to 12th grade every year has to take an annual assessment called Lost Links. It's a very lengthy assessment. They're actually in the middle of it right now. We're about ending it, thanks to Karen and Maria helping this year. And they get assessed on their literacy and oral skills. If we're looking at the data from last year, as you can see, both the state and our district went down, and so did most states in Connecticut, most school districts in the state of Connecticut. And the reason why it was a new test. But again, if you're looking at our numbers, we are well above state average and outperforming state average. If we're looking at our DERG again, and I don't have that slide up, the competitiveness. We're still on the top of our DERG. The only one above us is Derby. But if we're looking at numbers, Derby probably has maybe 100 multilingual learners to our almost 1,400. So really it's not a comparison. What I like to compare ourselves to is Meriden, Stanford, Danbury, Norwalk, because those numbers are very similar. I do want to say one thing, mostly EL and SPED, each group makes up about 20% of our total population. And Neil did mention, we did have a big influx of refugees this year. We have about 220 new refugees, and Carrigan alone has 50 new refugees. And most of those children have never been in school. So that's been kudos to our teachers, because it's been very difficult. You get a child in 5th, 6th, 7th, or high school level, and they don't know how to read or write in their own language. So that makes it very difficult.
Okay, so we want to continue with our accomplishments. ELA, the performance for all our high needs students and all students went up. Math, the same, all students and high needs students. Our chronic absenteeism, as I told you, has improved for both all students and high need students. We have a higher percentage of kids taking college and career readiness and passing those exams. We have more children higher on track for graduation rate, and we did increase our 4-year graduation rate. We have more students entering higher post-secondary situations, whether it be a 2-year school or a 4-year school. Increase in the physical fitness and also the arts access. So those are all things that, you know, besides our schools of distinction, this is a district accomplishment for us. Okay, so plans. We will continue to strengthen our core instruction with resources. Our coordinators are involved going into classrooms, supporting new teachers, supporting veteran teachers. iReady, as you know, it's not only in 5th and 6th, it is now K4. So we have that continued alignment. And we are continuing with the coaching to increase teacher knowledge of that. Continued focus support for all students in ELA and math. And I wanted to add to that, not only when children have the EL support and the special needs support, some of those same children go in and they have reading and math support too. So it's a lot of support besides just the focus on those 2 areas. Modeling for new staff, that would be our coaches going in and helping our new staff. And I have to tell you, the administrators are very good about going in and supporting the new staff too. Continued revisions of the curriculum to meet the needs. Every 5 years, we have to make sure that we look at our, especially at the high school, our curriculum, make sure it's updated to meet the needs of our kids. We did this year's staff training in the foundations of reading through the state of Connecticut. We have quite a few teachers going to that, and it's like trainer or the trainers type situation. Teacher review of the Connecticut approved literacy programs. We started that process from last year. I know I had 2 board members help us out, and we think we may have come to a conclusion on what we want. But that was quite a process, and we will continue to look and review what we're going to do and move forward. Embedded training during the data team process continues. Purposeful use of the social workers, psychologists, behavioralists, analysts, and the technicians. And early childhood interventions, which gives me a good segue into the next presentation, where we're going to talk about kindergarten registration. Does anyone have any questions for either me or anybody on my team?
I would just like to say thank you to all of you for making this happen.
Great job. Absolutely.
Thank you. And if you do have questions afterwards, you know, you can always contact me. Okay, thank you.
Judy, would you mind sending the presentation out to the board members, the PowerPoint presentation?
Sure.
So thank you.
I put you out.
Yeah, no, I just gave them, but I'll send you the presentation.
Yeah, email is good. I don't like to print a lot of stuff, so.
Okay.
Just,
Yeah.
I want you to know, this presentation is a little bit late. It was supposed to be last month, but because of the snow day. But I want you guys to know that Melanie and through our communication person, we have been getting the word out about the change and about the process. But we also felt it was important for you guys to be aware that you're getting questions. I'm sure you're going to get questions. But you know, so for no fault of our own, the presentation is late, but we have been getting the word out in the new kindergarten rules. Thank you guys for coming.
I'm gonna jump in.
Go ahead. So it's on you.
Yeah.
That was the intro.
So I did give you guys some supplemental packets as well that has some additional information that goes a little bit more in depth, just so that you can see it also. And obviously, if there's any question along the lines, please stop me and I will answer anything. My name is Melanie Dinger. I'm the early childhood coordinator. I'm gonna cover 3 components about kindergarten this year, a couple of things that are new. The first thing is registration, which is not new. One of the things that we decided to do was, because of the new legislation, is to kind of bump up that timeline. So we started opening our portal in January. Our first day of kindergarten registration is tomorrow at McCrill. And you guys have your flyer in there if you want to come to any of our dates. Each school does one day of kindergarten registration, so they get to come into the building, they get to meet the support staff, they get to meet the teachers, they get to get sometimes their first look at the school they're going to go to. And the schools are able to distribute their school-specific information. There's a larger event in May for kindergarten orientation, and that's really the full showcase of the school because it's a half day of session for our kids who are currently attending. So our kindergartners can come in for a half day so that they can see the entire building, see their classroom, get to know their teacher, get to know their classmates. So the kindergarten orientation day, and I apologize, they're been on their way to McCrill for kindergarten registration, but I can also send you guys the orientation flyer too, so you know the timing of those. You guys have a copy of the kindergarten registration flyer. It's also in Spanish. It's on our website. We've distributed it to all of our schools, all of our school readiness sites, pretty much anywhere I can send it, I did. So, and I want to thank the schools aren't here anymore, but the schools also sent it out on a variety of ways as well for me, just to get the word out there. During kindergarten registration, again, this is not new necessarily. We do the hearing and vision screening. We do the pre-last assessment. It gives kind of a quick dip into a student's skill set, just so that we can heterogeneously mix our classes. We have our nursing staff there. They aid with any of the requirements for physicals, anything that a student might be missing. We know it's tough, the physical requirements. A lot of kids don't have their physicals until the summer, so sometimes that's one of the things that we're kind of waiting on. We are working on a partnership with Cornell Scott, who will be with us at kindergarten registration to help those families who can't get in to see their doctor right away if they're missing something, so that we're building that partnership for our families.
We are really, we've been trying to place a priority on getting kids in school day one, whatever it takes. And that it's a challenge, but I think we're doing a pretty good job.
One of the things I forgot to mention that's newer this year, we are doing one day a month after this initial push. When Neil and I discussed kind of what's going to work for our community, why can't we get more kids during kindergarten registration? One of those things is that we have working families and they can't always take the day off to come in for the day and bring their child. So we are looking at doing a couple of Saturdays in April and May to help our families to, if that's something that they need, right? We all know that making an appointment on a Saturday is sometimes easier when you're a working family. So we are looking at doing that and possibly a night session, but we're going to continue throughout the year because we have found some of our like makeup days or district days, we get larger numbers because people just aren't aware of it yet. They haven't gotten the information. Whatever the case may be, we want to make sure that we're prepared for them. We get them in on the first day of school. We also have our community resources there. Jean Vitale from the Family Resource Center is there to disseminate information about community organizations and things that will help families. She also helps to disseminate school readiness. And I have to interject real quick and talk about school readiness. So school readiness, because it'll come up again, it is a grant that we have through the Office of Early Childhood that I oversee. We have over 200 community slots in 5 different community pre-Ks. And it's a sliding scale fee. So it's one of the resources any West Haven resident can apply for. And it's a sliding scale based on family size and income. So that's going to come into play in a little bit when I talk about the assessment and the new kindergarten entry age. And here it is. So Public Act 23-208, there's a more extensive version for you in your booklets. These are kind of the cliff notes of it. The kindergarten entry age has changed. So it was previously January 1st. You had to be 5 on or before January 1st in order to enter kindergarten. They have now pushed that back 4 months. Now you have to be 5 on or before September 1st to be age eligible for kindergarten. There's also a stipulation there if you're planning on sending your child to kindergarten and they are an October birthday, a parent can appeal to the district to have an assessment done to determine whether or not their child is developmentally appropriate for kindergarten. The state and the Office of Early Childhood, they have asked that any child who is not age eligible, whether a parent doesn't want to ask for the assessment, they're okay with being in pre-K another year, or they're found not eligible for kindergarten, that we maintain their spots in pre-K. So that goes for our public pre-K, as well as our school readiness and our community pre-K spots. So this way, no one's going without if they already have. Our procedure is also in your booklets, just so you all have it. This way, if anyone's reaching out to you, you know as well. It's on our website. I can tell you I have, as of today, probably closer to 45 requests for the kindergarten assessment. Everything is going to go through me. The way the legislation reads is that I would go to the principals, and all the principals are aware to send that information to me. We thought it was important as a district to have one voice and one communication, and that's all disseminating from one person. So I am that person. In case anyone is asking you questions, please send them my way. I'm usually pretty good about getting back to them pretty quickly. So we are asking for the 2 proofs of residency. This goes into play with, you know, registration, and we also want to make sure that we're, you know, assessing children of West Haven. And the child birth certificate. I'm also asking for a couple of more components of information from the parent, and that is the primary language of the student and if they are attending anywhere, pre-K anywhere in the community. Then we will assess the student, and I'm going to get to the assessments, kind of the last component, but here were the considerations. There was some guidance from the state. Overall, they basically said that they were not providing us with what that looked like, but they did provide some guidance. They wanted this to be a holistic measure of a child and not just the academics, which we as a district feel similar. You know, we don't want the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. That's our job. We will get them there. We want all these other components, the social emotional, the self-help, the adaptive, you know, are they just kindergarten ready to be in the classroom for 6 hours? So that was one thing we wanted to look at. We wanted to look at reliability, validity, range of domains, as I just discussed, that practicality of administration. One of the assessments, and I know Kim can tell you, that we looked at took an hour roughly to assess a child, and that's just not fair or reasonable. We can't do that for the 45 that I have. We've also been working with our EL department for the considerations for our identified high needs population. As you just witnessed, it's increasing, so we have to prepare for that. We did convene a panel of a variety of different skill sets and backgrounds to make sure that this wasn't one person's opinion, but a district-wide decision. I can tell you unanimously, we all agreed upon the Bergantz, which I'll get to. Just for future planning, I did just set up our professional development to get that training on the assessment for early March. We know, and I can say that I did communicate with a parent who kind of brought this to my attention. Some parents are putting their down payment for pre-K now for the fall, and they need to know. So the assessment that we've chosen, it gives you a chronological age, and it's all by their age. So it's not going to be harmful to us to give that assessment earlier, which that was one of the concerns from the state, is that you're testing closer to the beginning of school so that you're allowing them those developmental milestone months. The assessment that we've chosen won't affect that. So as soon as we can get people trained so that we have solid testers, then we will start. So we have that assessment training early March. We'll start assessing students where I have all their information immediately. We'll conduct those at the home schools or the school readiness sites. I'm just still in communication about where at our school readiness sites we can actually do that assessment so that it's private and it's not distracting and it's fair to the student. We'll make registration appointments for eligible students once they're found eligible. We also wanted to make sure that we had resources for parents, because if the data showcasing that they're not developmentally appropriate for kindergarten, then what is the alternative? What are we giving them? So that brought us to the Bergantz, and like I said, our panel convened, and unanimously this was the decision. I can tell you after the fact, there are a handful of districts that I'm aware of who are also using the same assessment. It does cover a variety of domains: academic and cognitive, language development, physical development, adaptive, self-help, social, emotional development. So, and it is quick. So it's about 15 to 20 minutes. This assessment, part of it is with the student, part of it is with the parent, because there are certain questions that, you know, our 4-year-olds, they're just not going to answer for you. So you have to ask the parent. It gives age equivalencies. It lets you know if they are not meeting those milestones, if they're not developmentally appropriate. It gives you cut scores that are norm referenced nationally. It also, and in your booklets, you can see some examples. It gives you a parent report. It gives you some resources, like next steps for a parent. I did have one parent reach out to me and say, how can I prepare my child for the assessment? And I said, well, I couldn't give you what the question is, right? But here are some things that you can work on. So how am I disseminating more information for a parent who says they're not age eligible or they're not developmentally appropriate? What else can I do? This will give us that. So we are also putting together something for those students who are not found developmentally appropriate to go, a packet of resources, whether in the community or the state, so that parents have other outlets for the rest of the year. It gives us also a database. That was a big seller for me, if I'm gonna maintain all this. So if a parent had questions, I can access it regardless of who the tester was. We also have a test coordinator, I'm sure if I said that or not. So she will be overseeing and going to the sites to make sure that we are standardized across all of our sites, and that was really important to us too. Some things that we are looking at considerations, and this will, go ahead.
Test coordinators is from Brigance or from our district?
It's from our district. She's actually a retired teacher.
That's fine.
Yeah. No, she's ours.
I didn't know if somebody from Brigance was gonna.
I will say, so Brigance is actually an extension of Curriculum Associates. We have a partnership with them already through iReady. And I have to say, they are very quick at getting back to us if we needed their, and I do have a lot of questions for them about our high needs population more specifically, but they're very quick to answer. So
I used this a million years ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I will say
It wasn't computerized then.
Wow. They do also have a pre and post that are preschoolers who are provided special education services called the pre and post Brigance. That's a state assessment. So I was very interested that the state had adopted a test of theirs. I thought it was solid.
Good idea.
So we're looking at some other things that we can do as a district, potentially an extension of our pre-K classrooms, those students who would be with us for potentially 3 years. How are we extending their experience? Because our pre-K is only 2.5 hours a day. Can we get them a full day experience where they go to kindergarten in the morning and pre-K for the afternoon? So they're still in pre-K, but we're extending that experience for them. Some curriculum revisions, because we have pre-K 3, pre-K 4, and now we have to look at our students who would be with us for another year. So really kind of extending that. Hopefully an increase of our school readiness sites or our slots. So we currently have over 200 slots in West Haven. They have recently said that we cannot expand upon those just yet. I think everyone's asking because of this new kindergarten entry. I, in my heart, feel like that'll change eventually from the state because they brought us this.
I think that's something to keep an eye on in this legislative session, which is starting tomorrow. It looks like they may appropriate some more money or even adjust some of the actual regulations. So, it's something we're going to monitor very closely, but right now it is what it is.
I have a question. I mean, I know that like Head Start is part of our school readiness. But what happens when the parent doesn't meet their federal guidelines and the parent can't afford it? What do we do with that? I mean.
So school readiness, Head Start's that's a funky example because they have a different guideline because they're under the federal. They have 36 slots through school readiness. So there is something in their federal guidelines that said that they can only maintain children for 2 years. They're the only ones who have that, and they have one of our smaller slots, but our other sites, they can have those children for a 3rd year. I do know a parent came into the Board of Ed and I spoke to her. Paying for pre-K for another year was her situation had changed and it was very difficult for her. I really like the idea in theory. I think that we are in a unique position to help our early kindergartners here and even some of our pre-K students and give them kind of that time to grow. But I know for, when you look at our samples here and some of these families and some of their stories, it's kind of heartbreaking, that you would have to pay for pre-K for another year. So school readiness is definitely an option for some of our families who aren't aware of it. And I think honestly, it's cheaper than private pay. So I'm Care for Kids, giving them more information about how to get some of that supplemental income
or supplemental pay for some of these things. So getting those resources together for them, because it's really all we can give them at the time.
Thank you.
We are still compiling these things, so as things come up and we're able to get them more assistance, because it is something to consider. They're going to need help.
Melanie, do they have one assessment? One official assessment and the answer is the answer, or can they come to you again and say, oh, can we, we did all these things, can we reassess?
So the state has, they have said, so here's the tricky thing. So our assessment gives you an age equivalency. So it will automatically tell you, regardless if I were to test a student now or 6 months from now, that's not going to, because it's based on their age. So it's not going to change if I was to retest them. And we have stated that the test results are final.
Okay.
So so kind of why I wanted to hold off, because I think there's that nervousness. And you're already competing against students who are already 5 in theory, but we're looking at their current age. So this assessment will give us by their current age, if they are age appropriate. We're not looking for them to compete with somebody who has 6 months ahead of them. So as long as they're age appropriate by their age, because we also can't fault them for not having the experience of time.
I just wondered what the process was, if there was gonna be like an ongoing request for your services to reassess students. I'm a November mom whose daughter went to school when she was turning 6, so I fully support that extra time if students need it, so.
I think
I wanted to know what your process was and how taxing this was gonna be on your time.
I think we've said it, the intent of this law is great.
Yeah.
It's the implementation over the next couple of years, which is gonna be a challenge. And, again, there's gonna be bumps in the roads. We'll deal with the cases as they come up and we'll do the best we can.
I just to add to the district considerations, I know we discussed it during the panel. Our policy right now reads that that a parent can petition the board for approval. So I think that if we are going to utilize this decision is final, we should probably discuss having that policy go back to the committee. I know I kind of brought it up to you as well, the kindergarten policy.
That may be a state statute, so regardless of the policy, they may still have the right to come before you. I have to check, but I'm pretty sure that, and again, there's only been one or two in my tenure here of people who've petitioned. But I think it's their right according to the state statute. Now, maybe they're gonna adjust the state statute to go along with the new kindergarten law. But I believe, regardless of the policy, they would have that right as of today.
Okay, so a student could be determined ineligible for, is that the right?
Yeah, look, my
Developmentally appropriate for kindergarten. I'm using state language.
If they were not determined to be developmentally appropriate for kindergarten and we gave them that determination, they still would have the.
I think the way the state law, I have to check. Again, those of you that have been around, we've had one or two of them in the past. The problem is, and I know I sound like a mean guy when the petition comes across, but when you make one exception, you've got to be careful. So
I think that makes it, I think that actually makes it easier.
That's the problem.
Having an actual official assessment. Prior to this, we were just kind of going on.
I can tell you, since they started talking about the law, and I mean this, Melanie has really done a very thorough job of investigating, talking to other districts, coming up with what I think is a very solid plan. She put a real lot of work in it.
I always tell my friends that I was okay with Megan going to kindergarten, but I wasn't okay with her going to college at 17. So that was where I was looking forward to.
The other thing is I have a nephew who's a December baby who started early and said, I peaked in college instead of peaking my senior year, and I've never forgiven my mother for that because he was a hockey player. So he was smart enough, but but physically he wasn't, he wasn't up to the same par as everyone else. So
I do think there's going to be a large portion of people who will not apply for the assessment because they're like, thank you, my kid does need another year. You feel that pressure to send them because they're age eligible. But now they're not. They're like, good, they need another year. Let them be a kid. Let them grow.
Right, you only get 18 years. They go by quick.
They do.
I'm not okay.
I'm a parent of a December baby and she was great in the beginning, but as she got older, you could see the differences in the maturity. Yeah. Everything. So there's definitely something to be said for it.
And I think that's why this assessment is so great, because it doesn't evaluate just academically. It evaluates socially, emotionally, are they developmentally ready, not just academically.
Yes.
You know, it's all about, to me, giving your child an edge. I've sat down with many people over the years and said, Heather, exactly what you're saying. Don't look at them as a 4-year-old. Look at them as a 16 or 17-year-old senior, or even when they graduate, going off to college with 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, and they're just about 17.
She started at 17, exactly. That's, she's young. She's one of the biggest in her dorm.
Athletics is a good example, but it's just the whole social, emotional, you know, especially boys who mature much slower and, you know, don't want to be the last person in the race in gym class, or even when the kids line up. There's a whole bunch of things to consider. And, you know, unfortunately, people are behind the 8 ball. They need quality daycare. They need to get their kids off to school.
Sure.
We understand that. But again, I think, you know, we really got to look out for that child and how they're going to progress, you know, in their hopefully 13 years with us.
Well, and we ask a lot of them in kindergarten. You know,
It's, you know, it's not what it used to be, you're right.
it's not- They're not just coloring and playing, so.
You're 100% correct.
Kindergarten is first grade.
It is. I think that is everything, so. That's it.
Nice job.
And again, if as questions come up, or if you have any questions for me, feel free to give me a shout.
We know where you are.
Yeah.
The last presentation tonight, again, it's been a while since we met, but we've completed. Keep in mind, the city's a couple of years behind in their audit process. So what we just completed 22, they're doing 23, they're a year behind. We wanted to let you know, where we stood in the audit, or where we think we're gonna stand in the 23 audit. We also want to share with you, supposedly the city is gonna go out with a bond. 23 in the coming month or two.
Yes.
There's the 5-year capital plan, which we're asking you to approve tonight. In my mind, the key is 23 and 24 are the big ticket items for us. That's not part of the 5-year plan. The 5-year plan is 25 to 29. It's so confusing because we're behind it. So if I'm saying it quickly, I get confused myself. But the two that are coming up include the West Haven High School bond, the Washington School bond, and the Carrigan Boiler project. That's 23 and 24. 25 to 29, we're ready to submit, but there's plenty of time to make adjustments to it.
Matt, before you go, I know it's getting late and it's a school night, so if you guys need to step out,
You're
please.
such a good
Great.
person. Can you write that?
Listen, Kim reminded me, because she's a model of high school that I think just went home to do her homework.
No, she's across practice. She's right across.
So if you guys need to leave, I totally understand. So don't feel like you have to stay if you have homework to do. I don't want Miss Paredes saying,
Kept him out late.
it's a school night.
Study or rest.
It could be worse, it could be.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
nice
Take
night.
care. Good night.
Have a good night.
You too, honey.
Thank you.
Sorry about the interruption.
All right, thanks for coming, guys. Thank you.
Okay, so as Neil stated, send you guys again a few updates on our financial points. Apologize for being in the corner, but I'm gonna have to toggle through a couple of different documents. So first to start, we just finished our fiscal year 21-22 audit. The audit results are our general operating budget was balanced at 0. So which that means is that every penny appropriated to the Board of Ed for this fiscal year was spent on Board of Ed items only, which is a very good thing. Our sports facility surplus, the rink in Ken Strong Stadium, that grew to $351,732.
And by the way, those are separate accounts. Normally you can't, because those are special accounts, you can't carry normally the money over. You can there.
And our school lunch program, which is the same thing as Neil just stated, you are able
Special account as
to
well.
carry over. That surplus grew to a little over $1 million. We are actively talking with equipment companies to get them on site to make an assessment of our school.
The priorities, Carrigan, right now, it's about, nothing finalized yet, but we have had people over and food services we're working with Sodexo. It's about a $400,000 renovation. That's the big project. The other schools need some work. Carrigan needs needs an overhaul.
And by law, all surplus associated to the school lunch program has to go directly back into the program. It cannot be used for any other activity. Our goal every audit is to have 0 findings. This audit, we had 3 that I'll briefly touch upon. The last 2, the Educational Stabilization Fund, the project certified payroll. What that states is for one of the projects, it was the Bailey Modular Classrooms. We did not receive certified payroll from the vendor. I believe it's more, this finding was there more on a technicality than it is something that we weren't monitoring or we weren't closely watching. The bid called for a design and build phase of the modular classrooms. What we ended up receiving was more of a prefabricated structure. So there was no really design, there was no really bid, so certified payroll wouldn't be appropriate for that type of project. But it was in the bid specs because that is boilerplate language. So it was a finding. It is not something that I expect to carry forward. I believe it will be off the next audit. The school readiness subrecipient monitoring. This was a finding from fiscal year 2020, 2021. This grant was not reviewed in this particular audit. I expect it to be reviewed in 22, 23. The majority of the reason why this was a finding is because during the 2021 audit, it was the height of COVID, and access into the subrecipients of our grants was not normal. We weren't really able to get in there and conduct the normal monitoring that we would typically do. Once this grant is monitored, is reviewed again, it will be removed from the site. Segregation of duties in payroll is a finding that has been in the city audit on both the city side and the Board of Ed side for, probably the beginning of audits.
Of time.
Yeah. What this is saying is that we have a risk of having our payroll person having the ability to change a pay rate, change something. And I think we've come a long way. And I think one of the frustrations that I have with these audits and being so far behind is that what we've done to improve doesn't show up in a timely fashion. It takes 2 to 3 years to catch up. My expectation is that when we finish the fiscal year 24 audit, that this finding will be removed. So what we've done to minimize the risk in payroll is through ADP, our payroll person is able to send me a payroll preview in Excel. I go through the entire Excel spreadsheet, tick and tie to what has been submitted by the schools, make sure there's no typos, no transposition of numbers. I sign off on that. We also get approval from the city treasurer as well to move forward. And then after that takes place, I review what's called a change report, which shows me every change that was made in the system, whether it's an address, whether it's a name change, pay rate, job classification. And I review that and I sign off on that before the payroll. So any change that we see is reviewed and verified by multiple people. So any risk that this finding speaks about is basically null and void at this point. So we feel when the audits finally catch up, this will be removed as well. And that would be a very big thing.
I have a question for you. Sure. When you talked about school lunch surplus goes back into the lunch program, does that mean recess too, or just the food?
No, it has to be involved in the federal school lunch program.
Okay. And then if that goes for the sports facility surplus too, does that go back into sports?
Into maintaining the field in the rink.
Technically, it doesn't have to, but we like to make sure. And by the way, the 350, we're waiting because we know some big time work has to be done at the rink.
Right.
We can include that when we do that. When is it 24?
24, yes.
24. There in the proposed bonding ordinance, when the city goes out to bond, there's work for the rink, like replacing the floor and some of the jobs that we've talked about
Right.
over the years that are gonna be quite a big expense. So this will offset some of that.
All right, great. Thank you.
And by the way, one more thing on the segregation of duties. I know that one of the Wills report asked that the city, and I believe the mayor just went to the council to get an approved position regarding an overall, I don't want to say payroll director, but I forget the actual title. But there'll be training. I think one of the things is consistency amongst the departments and training people and, making sure that the processes, whatever they are, whatever systems we use are all uniform and that it's all flowing up to the finance office. Again, for those of you that are new, keep in mind that all of our payroll ultimately has to go. We don't cut checks, whether it's a vendor, whether it's a payroll person. We send everything up to the city finance department where that process is done.
Okay, moving to the 22-23 audit. The audit is to be completed by June 30th, 2024. That's in conjunction with the credit rating agencies to ensure that the city maintains its credit rating. For the State Department of Education, we have several reports that are statutorily due up to the state by December 31st, 2020, by the end of the year. All those reports were filed with the state in a timely fashion. And although the audit hasn't started yet, we have reached out to the auditing firm. We received a series of reports that they requested to get a jump start. And we have been fulfilling those requests and uploading them to the auditors and waiting back for their selections to pull invoices and pull whatnot to get the audit going. And then once this audit is completed, the 22-23, it's the city's expectation to start 23-24 up right away and have that completed by December 31st of 2024.
That will get us current.
Yeah, we'll get us current. It's
That'd be unusual.
yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a tall order. It's gonna be a tall order, but rest assured the Board of Ed won't be the reason why it's not met if it's not met.
I think that the mayor invited us to some community open house meetings, and that was one of the things that she said was one of her goals was to get our audits current, and that a lot of the positions that are currently being filled are in preparation to get those things done, so hopefully that will happen.
I know that's one of the things that affected the bond rating and their credit. So in a positive manner. So
So we'll switch over to the capital budget request. As Neil stated earlier, it is a bit confusing just because we're so far behind in the audits and so far behind in bonding. But the column FY23, that should be bonded within the coming weeks to months. What's contained in that year's bonding is the $2.1 million to finish the Kerrigan boiler project, as well as the first bond for the Washington School rebuild and the final bond for the West Haven High School renovation project. The next time the city goes to bond, they will bond for the fiscal year 24 line. That's where you can see the Bennett rink, $800,000 for a floor replacement, $400,000 for the chiller plant, and a small amount to replace some equipment in the facilities department. the first share of the city share of the Savin Rock roof replacement and the second bid for Washington School. Now, both of these years that we just went over, you as the board have approved that capital plan in prior years. What you're approving, hopefully, in a short amount of time, will be from fiscal year 25 to 29. A majority of these projects have been on here for some time, and you've seen them in iterations in the past of this capital budget. I think the new things that I at least would like to highlight in fiscal year 26, we added $500,000 for modular canopy work. This is kind of trying to combine the modular classrooms to the building in a way that doesn't require all the necessary infrastructure that would up to code and fire alarms and whatnot. So it's a way to kind of enclose that area. In fiscal year 25, there's $500,000 for the Kerrigan School, asbestos and flooring. We did a smaller project in one of the reading rooms where we replaced the flooring, and it was very well received. So cosmetically, we will do that throughout the entire building to try to brighten it up and change some of the old flooring. District-wide, if you scroll down a little bit more, there's in each of the fiscal years, there's $250,000 for hardscape. This is normally what we refer to as paving or curbing, but titling it hardscape gives us more flexibility with the money.
Sidewalks.
That may be bonded.
Paving. You can pave from now until whatever you never finish.
The line right
A big topic at the mayor's meetings.
Ours are in pretty good shape. And I think what you'll see, I don't want to steal Matt's thunder, but even like HVAC and that we kind of can push out, because right now we're in really good shape. We've applied for some of the grants that are out there. COVID has allowed us to do a lot of this work and catch us up. So that's the good news.
Yeah, I would say that the $1 million in fiscal year 29, we've done quite a bit of work with our COVID relief money, and these funds are to ensure that work doesn't go to waste and we stay on top of it and provide the best facilities we can. And then finally, you'll notice that there are 4 roof replacements throughout the district. So within the span of this 5-year plan, McCrill will get a new roof, Pagels, Seth Haley, and Savin Rock. Any questions about any other project I'd be happy to answer?
Just for the roofing too, they're considered non-priority projects. Believe it or not, they're non-priority. When you apply, by the end of the year whether or not you get the money, and those fall under our reimbursement rate. So if it's $1 million project and we get 70%, our share is $300,000.
Yeah, I have 2 comments. Do you want to wait until we get to the vote on it, or just go ahead with?
No, why don't we go now? Just because everything's up.
And one of them's, well, neither one is on here, but as part of the 5-year and part of the planning, something that wasn't on a regular basis was the replacing of the concession stand on the field and redoing those bathrooms. Now with the new high school, is it feasible? Is it smart not only to redo the concession stand and the bathrooms, but maybe move the football team locker rooms for halftime outside?
We actually have
into the building, because now it's a greater distance, it's a brand new building.
It's a great question.
Question number 1.
Well, let me answer it. So we actually are looking at that right now. I believe we have some COVID funds left over. We're trying to, one of the, as you know, it's a great facility. It's being used constantly. The traffic has always been an issue because where the entrance is where the concession stand is. What we're looking at is some kind of design where we can combine the concession stand, the bathrooms. We're looking at some kind of Butler building fact, we just saw a really nice one out in Durham. Cog High School just did one. Where they can actually split it up into offices, team rooms. And we have a preliminary design. I think it costs us about $5,000. We're waiting to get that back, but if we can get that done, we can use those funds. It would be an absolute no-brainer because the bathrooms are in poor shape. The concession stand is in a bad location where, again, if you've been to any football games or graduation, it really backs up and it's a bad traffic area as well. So we're kind of looking at the entrance and seeing if we can, it's not an easy task to do. One of the things that, I'm reminded of is that, when you do the projects like that, because you're bringing in plumbing, electricity and all of the trades, it makes the prices go up. So again, we're waiting on that. As soon as I get the results, I'll share it with you, but it's something we'd like to get done in long overdue.
Now, when you do the concession stands, would any of that food service money be allowed to replace?
In fact, that's what we're looking at now. We just had a meeting with Sodexo. And it's a little bit of a stretch, but what they're saying is that if we can prove to the state, they call it a point of service, where we can say we're serving kids lunch out there, it may qualify. It's a stretch. Easier said than done, but again, here, I think Dana would back us up on that right now. Our lunch waves are pretty crowded, and so we could use more points of service, but again, it's a little bit of a stretch, but we've broached the state on that.
I don't know that. I mean, you could put the kids that are at gym that have lunch that are on the track, instead of coming back in, you have
I think
out there serving lunch.
I think we can get creative. I know, again, it may be a senior child. It might be a senior kind of thing. It might be, the end of the year, the beginning of the school year.
Yeah.
The short answer is we've talked about it. We'd like to use the money for that. But we've got to see if we're eligible.
And the second's more a long-term, but I certainly would like to start the discussion. And I understand there's a lot of parameters. With that, we did a lot to get Malloy School ready for Washington. When Washington moves out, I would hate to see that building become empty and mothballed again. And my thought process was for a couple different reasons. One, the governor looks to be creating a different pot of money for early childhood that would not be part of your regular ECS money. Our needs, which we heard of in those of us that are around town, increase daily, never mind yearly. What is the feasibility of keeping that property, that building alive, if you will, and creating, whether it's early childhood, preschool, and with the kindergarten change, there's so many factors that are playing into it. I think we have a great opportunity after what we did to get that building ready for Washington School to put it, repurpose, whatever you want to call it, going forward. I'm just looking to start the discussion. I know that's
it's a great question. One of the reasons, and I've shared my feelings with you guys regarding the solar fields there, is it's a heck of a piece of property and is ripe for expansion. And at one time, for those of you that really been around a long time, there was a project to expand it on the table that was taken off. City was just financially couldn't afford it.
We have to get the board on board. We have to get the city.
It's going to be bonding.
A lot of people on board to agree that in 2 years and 3 years, whatever that magic number is for Washington School, this idea makes sense to at least start the mechanism.
I think the other thing needs to be considered, when we moved Washington School to Malloy, we went to the city building officials and said, look, Washington isn't currently handicap accessible. So Malloy isn't either technically. I mean, it's a smaller building. It's not as high, but it is not feasible right now to put a handicapped child in there, where if you're going to do an early childhood expansion, you would certainly have to take that into consideration. So I think it's a bigger project than just, opening the doors. I mean, you'd have to look long and hard, as you said, get the city on board, get the board on board. That might mean, again, if you want to make it a kindergarten facility, is the public receptive to, one central location? People like their elementary schools, but I think it's preliminary now, but I think that it's something we should look at, especially given the property. The only thing is, again, those solar fields were bound for 20 years. And again, I didn't make that deal.
Isn't there some kind of bathroom requirement for early childhood, like kindergarten or preschool?
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm saying. It's not.
In classroom bathroom?
But that's my point. It's
So
not gonna be as easy as we would like to, as far as tomorrow, it's, when the kids from Washington League move the preschool kids in, there's gonna be some renovations that are gonna be needed.
But it's definitely in good shape to think about to use it for something.
It's a great starter with a lot of property. I mean, for those of you that have not been to the back of Malloy or only see it, because most people just see it when you drive up and down Malloy, go into the back. Now you gotta kind of park in front of where the Mottos are and walk back there. You'll see the amount of space that's there. It really is a
Huge,
nice
it's
piece of
nice.
property.
Maybe the
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8 dream will come true someday.
That was my original plan.
Ago.
That was my original plan, yeah.
Do that on the Carrigan property.
We're on it. We're all trying to think of these things, and we appreciate your input, obviously.
And now,
There more?
the final part.
There's more?
An update of where we stand on the current year budget.
Okay.
So what I gave to you was a budget breakdown comparing this fiscal year to last fiscal year through December 31st. I used December 31st because now that we're using ADP and payroll isn't directly into Munis, the city hasn't booked the January payroll entries yet, so it wouldn't be a like comparison. Even stating that, if you looked at the report, you could see a pretty large delta between the salaries in fiscal year 23 versus the salaries in the current year. The reason for that is there were 3 payrolls in December last year. There was only 2. There'll be 3 payrolls in January. There were only 2 the year before, so that will catch itself up. But in terms of spending, we're right where we need to be. We're running about $700,000 below what we were last year at this time. My anticipation, my expectation is that we will finish the year with a balanced budget and kind of see the same results as we saw in the fiscal 22 audit. If there's any questions on particular line items within this report, I'd be happy to answer.
Workman's comp always makes me nervous.
Yeah,
Doing pretty well.
So yeah, workman's comp has been, knock on wood, pretty steady over the past few years. We did reduce the budget, the overall budget for it from where's the there you go, there we go.
33.
From 1,050,000 to 750,000. That's based on historical spending. We haven't really seen it get over 550,000 in the last several years. So we still do have the buffer there, and we are in constant communication with our third party who oversees it. So we don't see anything popping up over the horizon in terms of a settlement from an injury several years ago that would completely blow this budget out of the water. It is one of the last things that we are self-insured for. So there is always a variance or a variable. But I think we have a good control of it. And I think that $750,000 is more than adequate of funding for that line item.
Thanks, Matt.
That's all I got.
Thank you, Matt.
Good job. That's a lot of information. Again, if you have questions or as you're looking through it, we'll make ourselves available, do the best we can to answer your questions.
Anything else from you, sir?
good. I kind of was the maestro tonight, just orchestrating. I didn't have to do much, but thank you, Dan, to all the administrators.
Sherry, thank you for everything you did.
All right, board reports. Start down on my head.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I have nothing to report.
All right, miss.
My turn?
Yes, ma'am.
I was at the McCrill School when the accident happened. The parking lot is really busy. It's a busy school. There's a lot of people that vote there. So you had, but there were, I was there in and out throughout the whole day. So there were cops there at certain times, but the parking lot did get busy. And like I said, when they're coming around to make the turn, I could see where it was tight because there's a lot of traffic there. I know Rosa has been in favor of moving the elections out of the schools when there's school going on. After seeing that and how busy it was, I do agree with her again. I don't know who makes that decision. If we decide not to let them have the school or if they have to go somewhere else, it's at the register of voters. I don't know the whole semantics of that.
The law is pretty clear. The school board has the use of, as long as the school board is using the schools for educational purposes, the school board has the say into how the schools are used. I can tell you this,
Find somewhere.
you know, again, I've been doing this a long time.
Right.
I've seen it. We do the best we can to work with the registrar of voters office. For example, right after the primary, Sherry Lepper, who's the Democratic registrar of voters, who works very closely with Joanne Caligari, the Republican registrar of voters, already contacted me. She said, Neil, and we've done this in the past. I don't know why we stopped, although it was a special election. And I know that's what it's called, special election. I know it was emphasized, but it is a special election. Could we get the staff at McCrill to park at the Italian American Club? She was going to reach out to make sure they do that. That'll create some more parking. However, what I've seen also is that, people want to park in the gym when they want to vote in the gym. They don't want to, drive around. Or, why not? I know me and you guys, if you know my cars and whatnot, I would park at the Italian American Club if I was going to vote, just to keep it away from other cars and traffic. So, I think it's a two-way street. I know people get a phone call, hey, you got to come down and vote. It's the last minute, or they rush down. And, again, we're pretty fortunate. I can also tell you that the last election, what we did was there wasn't, only 2 schools were used. A resource officer was assigned to each of the buildings full-time, which again, that's at the board's expense, and yes, at the expense of some other coverage. But at one time, the city used to pay for the police officers. They no longer do that. But
the reason
I think it's our duty to make sure the kids are safe.
I think that whoever is giving our school, utilizing our schools for the election should pay for the SRO.
I think
I
that's
don't think
very,
it should, the cost should come from us. We're not the ones.
I think it's very reasonable to
Sorry.
make, no, you're right. And we could, just like we do, by the way, when we book to an outside agency.
Right.
We can say, you've got to pay for the security guards, you've got to pay for the police officers.
But I do understand her point because we don't allow other agencies and things. You can't have your
During school
Zumba
hours.
class in the gym during school hours. You
Yeah.
can't have a club meeting during school hours. So I understand what she's saying. And I understand that there's a lot of fear. And I just think if you're going to vote at McCrill for a special election, they could go to the IA club. There's places around.
But that's not, again, that's out of this board, it's out of my control.
But we could say that we could have a vote and say, we don't want.
Even if you wanted to do a non-binding resolution, you can make your feelings known to the registrar. But again, I'm going to say this, we work pretty closely with the registrar of voters.
I'm aware of that.
We have to have a good relationship with them. You guys are all elected officials. You have to go back to your party leaders. That's the nature of serving on any
They
elected.
can be mad
board.
at us. It's okay. They can be mad at us.
Okay, but I mean, that's a decision you guys gotta make. And like Sherry, even the other thing that we're working on now is come March, it's the first election where the state of Connecticut's allowing early voting. So they're gonna set up a section of one of our hallways. They asked if we could at City Hall, not in the schools, in order to get that done.
Yeah, not in school.
So we, you know, again, we wanna have a good relationship. I can tell you over the years, and you know, Rose and I have had this conversation many times.
For a lot of.
All of the areas where they vote in the elementary schools have their own separate entrance.
I'm aware.
We've done that over the years where, you know, at McCrill at one time, for example, they voted in the all-purpose room. We installed phone lines in the gymnasium. When you go to vote in the gymnasium. There's a security guard or resource officer keeping everybody away from the school population, the teachers and whatnot. It's better than it was. It's not perfect.
And while there's voting going on in that gymnasium, our students who have to abide by regulations for physical fitness aren't allowed to use the gym either. But as a member of this board, I would respectfully request that this discussion go on the table for us to.
So traditionally, we vote on our calendar in March, so maybe that should be an agenda item if that's what you're requesting.
Yes.
On the next meeting when we talk about the school calendar.
Just keep in mind, the challenges are primaries. You don't know necessarily ahead of time when there's going to be a primary, nor do you know when there's going to be a special election for a seat an open seat like there was. Or even a
Can
town
use an
committee
alternate site for a primary.
So I think I like what if you're going and the request is going to be don't use the schools. That's and again, I'm not saying that, but that's a better suggestion than, use the schools or close the schools, because you can't anticipate those lessons. Kevin and I actually had a conversation not that long ago where, let's say we find out 30 days from now, there's going to be a special election for a general assembly seat.
There's nothing you could do at that point.
What are you going to do? And, parents count on the school day.
Right.
That's an adjustment period. So,
There's a lot of,
and when you start school is when a primary is, a municipal primary. Like we're looking at and again, off the top of my head, you'll get the calendar next month, but you start school, I think next year we may start on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, off Labor Day, come back, primary day the next week. I mean, the idea is to get the kids into a routine. Educationally, it's not great.
right, and I think
And
that's.
not to mention parents having to have their kids home for an additional day, worrying about
I don't
childcare
want
and
them
all
to
that.
have to take them home, I'd like to move the phone
And I
places.
mean, I appreciate all of that. Obviously, I, understand as parents, we don't want to have to take that additional time off. But a wise woman once told me that she doesn't want to sacrifice. What is it?
You're gonna be.
Yeah.
Safety for convenience?
Yes.
Convenience for safety.
So I understand and appreciate that we do not want to close the schools, and I know we discussed it, and I know we've been open, or we had been closed at other primaries in years past.
No, but only when they're in the summer. The only day that we close for an election is the November day, which is, since I've been going to school, that's a professional development day for
Right.
teachers. But I know and again, I don't know, but I know that maybe it's state elections where the primaries are actually in August prior to the start of the school year.
Last time we had this conversation, one of the state primaries was supposed to be like the first week when school opened.
Right.
We had a discussion about sending a letter to our delegation, because obviously, if it's affecting us, we're not the only district being affected on election day. But if we can put our concerns out to our state reps, to our mayor, to say maybe if they can adjust the state election calendar a little bit by a week or two, some of these problems can be eliminated. And especially now, we're gonna have some new state representatives in this town put our concern out there, so the new mayor knows, not that she's new to the state, but the new mayor knows, the new state reps will know. At least they'll be part of this conversation before. And obviously with the registrar voters too, but the state representatives and the senators would be the one that could change the election calendar.
I can tell you, the question has come up with our local superintendent's group. To my knowledge, nobody's closing. The big one was the presidential primary in March, which, my opinion is going to be a foregone conclusion. So not many people are gonna be voting on either side, but, you know. When it seemed like it was gonna be a bigger event that it's now turning into, that was an issue. Amongst other school districts.
Is there, I don't know what the legalities of of where you hold voting, like what, does it have to be in a public building? Does it have to be at a municipally owned building?
but
Or
it has
could it be a Stop and Shop if you want?
It has to be handicap accessible. That's.
Where's the fourth and fifth district? Is that a church now, isn't it?
Yeah, there's fourth and fifth district are at that Masonic, that little white church.
I just wasn't sure if there was any kind of law.
And it was at St. Paul's
You're gonna
when
get
it
like
was.
a 10.
Has there ever been a conversation of like specific alternate polling locations in districts?
As
Go ahead, Rosa.
as a board member, okay,
I'm so glad you
previous,
brought this up.
I went throughout the entire city and found an alternate location and presented it to the registrar of voters, and I thought I was gonna get beat up.
Well, I'll bodyguard for you. Will you send me
I
that
got you.
information? It's not getting
Well, a lot of those places don't even exist anymore. okay?
Conversation and build on.
But we can find new
We'll
ones. I
find-
mean, there's gotta be somewhere in each district.
I'll even
there also-
remember,
I think-
you know, again, I don't wanna go, I think we spent a lot of time on it and you've gotta pick a course. Again, it's a decision the board ultimately has to make. But I'll never forget, like, when they were closing Thompson, or before I was when I was principal at Thompson before it was handicap accessible. You know, God forbid we move the polling place because whoever the council person was, you know, could count on their 50 people walking over to Richard Street and making. It's a reality, and I'm not trying to tell you what you can and can't do. I believe you have that authority. I'll get you the opinion from our council if need be. But, you know, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to take,
It's certainly.
you're gonna have to answer some questions.
Yeah, it's certainly worth a discussion. And on the flip side, with the redistricting, the slight redistricting that happened, there was a lot of confusion this election and past election. And also I am very cognizant of the appearance of voter suppression. Like I also don't want to be regarded as someone that's looking to, you know, discourage people from coming to vote as well. So I think that we need to make sure we have a good plan.
We're not discouraged. Listen, I've been advocating for this dialogue long before that parent stood up there tonight.
Listen, we've talked about it many, many times. And I don't disagree with safety as the number one priority at all.
So,
Yeah, no, sure. We definitely talked about it when we planned our calendar for this current school year. That
So-
we had the discussion.
So that being said, if everyone wants to think about it over the next couple of weeks and then we can further discuss it, and I'll be happy to send an email to the mayor and the registrars of voters and tell them that this is something that we're, you know, concerned about.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, I'm gonna finish what I was gonna say now.
I'm sorry, I thought you
Sorry.
were done.
I wasn't done. I had other things to say.
You go right on.
I want to congratulate the three schools because I'm really, really proud of the three schools that won their schools of distinction. But I think that my hat goes out to Forest as a Title I school, that they were able to achieve that. And then you're also the Blue Ribbon School, like Tom, what are you doing over there? Like really, I'm amazed. at all the things.
Rockstar.
I know, doing a lot over there. The other side of town, but I like it because that's where I grew up. The other thing that I am gonna plug, even though I still haven't paid for it yet, Little Miss Westy is coming up. And if you haven't been to Little Miss Westy, you need to come to Little Miss Westy. My granddaughter is the star this year. She'll go on stage. She's being on, and Mackenzie Gardner is going to coach her, so this should really be interesting.
Famous Mackenzie Gardner.
World famous Mackenzie Gardner is going to coach Mia, Miss Hobson, to go on stage. So this should be very interesting. It is a lot of fun. The kids have a lot of fun. There's a lot of energy. It's a great fundraiser for the high school. And so if you haven't plan to go, especially if you go, I'll be eternally grateful. I'll buy you lunch if you go see my granddaughter, and my great niece. But it is a really nice, fun day. It's a long day. I'm hoping that she gets a lot of people to register so that the little kids are in the morning and the big kids are in the afternoon. But kudos to Dana for putting that together because that's a lot of work.
And I'm a fully inexperienced celebrity judge every year at Little Miss
Oh, okay.
Westy. So they have like real pageant judges there too, and then me.
And you,
So-
you'll see the little.
I
wild
hope it's a
child.
10.
And I have other things, but I'll let it go because I talked a lot, so that's enough.
All right, thanks. Thank you. Mrs. Kenny.
Sure. I just wanted to congratulate all of the spelling bee participants. I'm sure everyone already did that, sorry.
No, we-
And all of the bands and choral performances that happened in the last 6 or so weeks. Well done.
You have a plug for an upcoming performance, perhaps?
Newsies is the first weekend in April. April, I don't know, 4th, 5th, 6th. Come see Albert.
I plugged at all the community meetings that I was at as well.
Yeah.
I'll say with some of my fellow board members, it's nice to attend the spelling bee and thank you to all those involved. And it's nice to remember our former councilman and Washington school student and Mr. Everly. And thank you for the PTAs for taking care of the awards. Thanks.
No, I don't.
You good? Heather?
I just want to say, I know you mentioned it, Ketty, that the mayor's outreach into each of the districts and hearing from the residents that we were invited to attend. And hearing from everyone and getting out there and letting them know who we were was really invaluable. And I enjoyed the ones that I attended. I know a lot of us attended them and got some great feedback. And we were able to say how awesome the school district is. Really all I had, and congratulations to the schools of distinction, for sure.
Yeah.
Just piggybacking off what Kim said, that was at the Bailey concert. It was a very good time. And congratulations to all the schools of distinction.
The Bailey concert was incredible.
Yeah, you were there.
They were, those teachers are amazing, especially when you think about where those kids start.
Yeah.
And they work with some kids that have never played
Yep.
and some kids that have played for several years.
I mean, if you have a kid that's gone through that and you listen to and you're like, and then all of a sudden it's like music, it's pretty amazing. They're like miracle workers.
We are incredibly lucky that we have such dedicated staff members that
we do
these extra activities with the kids after hours and give up of their own time. I know a lot of them are stipend positions, but it doesn't nearly cover the time and effort that they put in, never mind of their own funds that I'm sure are being expended as well. So I said at the community meetings that the talent level, specifically, I was talking about at the high school about the new building, and if anyone hadn't been here, what a great building it is, and this opening of this next month. And I said, you know, the talent at West Haven High School is not the only thing that surpasses the facilities at West Haven High School is the talent. So there were a lot of people that were really interested in coming to see. I'm a big musical fan, so the spring show is always my favorite, but the choral productions, the band productions, we're really lucky that our kids have all these opportunities, as well as sports and science and things. Not everybody's into the same thing. So we offer a really great array from elementary up. I think we offer a great spectrum of programs. So hats off to you guys for not only getting them academically where they need to go, but as artistically as well.
I think it was a nice opportunity for us as board members to visit the districts and be able to kind of talk about what, you know, Mayor Boer kind of explained at every meeting that I attended anyway, that such a large percentage on the dollar goes to the educational system here in our city. And so even if you don't have a student here, you are still contributing to what goes on day to day. And to be able to kind of highlight what that is was a really nice opportunity for us to be able to talk to the community members and let them know.
And I did mention at those meetings as well that as the superintendent, I stole this line from him because he said it to me many times, is that, you know, we don't just consider our buildings school buildings, but they're community buildings, so that they're, you know, in the evening hours.
Right.
When school is not in session, we happily welcome other folks in to use our facilities, and I don't think I've been in any building that the principal and the maintenance staff have not been overwhelmingly welcoming and helpful anytime I've had an after hours event. So hats off to all of you guys again for being the center of the community. I think that was one of the things I said in the Washington newscast, is that a school is the heart of the community. So, you know, you guys are the heart of our school. So thank you very much. Before I get all emotional about it. And I think it's like midnight now, so next on the agenda is D1, the approval of minutes, D1A, the Board of Education minutes from the January 2nd meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve, first by Rosa, second by Kim. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. I will entertain a motion to do D2, 24-06 to 24-09, all inclusive.
Motion.
First by Rosa, second by Heather. Any discussion?
I would just like to say thank you to those who will be leaving us. And hopefully, if we can get our contracts approved, we'll be able to maintain our staff.
My blood pressure
Mark.
just had
Approved by
finally
Mark.
gone
We've
down. a
already-
little bit. Now it's right back up again.
Sorry, but
It's okay. Yeah, we are 100% in support of that moving forward. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. I will entertain a motion to do D3 24-10 to 24-12, all inclusive.
motion.
First by Rosa, second by Kim. Any discussion?
I want to point out, the last person is a regular ed certified person, but we'll be taking on some special ed responsibilities. We were able to get that person in First Step. And I think it's important for me to keep pointing out that it's very competitive and we're paying more for teachers to try to get them into the district. So again, just, you know, I'll keep pointing that out.
We appreciate that. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. D4, new business, 24-13. I'll entertain a motion to approve the 5-year capital plan.
Motion.
First by Pat, second by Bob. Any more discussion?
I think the only other
We beat
thing,
that to
and I'm
death.
sorry, but I think it's important that I add this, that, again, when the board passes it, when the city council passes it, until it's funded through a bond, it's not official, because very often, you know, for especially those of you who come to the board meeting, what do you mean, Neil? We passed the capital plan. Yes, but you need to put the funding in place before we can go ahead and spend the money. So, you know, we're a ways away from any of those projects, but we've got some big ones on there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The rest of the agenda is informational, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:58. Motion by everyone.
A lot of reports. Please let us know if you have any.
First grade.
Thank you, everyone.
Nobody touches that.
I gotta shut the. I know, it went up. Yeah.
This car.